This is Jeremy Christian, who was apprehended for the murder of 2 men on a Max light rail train in Portland, Oregon. In May 2017, Christian brutally stabbed and killed 53-year-old retired Army officer Ricky John Best and 23-year-old Taliesin Myrdin Namkai Mecha. He also wounded 21-year-old Micah Fletcher, who managed to survive. What follows is the moment when everything began. Christian was recorded yelling anti-Muslim and racist slurs at 2 black teenagers. This behavior unsettled several passengers who stepped in to shield the frightened teenagers who had retreated to the back of the train. Attempts to defuse the situation led to Christian brandishing a knife, threatening to stab and eventually attacking the victims. But the story doesn't end there. Here is Christian leaving the scene. After his brief but violent outburst, he fled the train at the next stop. Several passengers followed him while calling 911. Eventually, the police arrived and arrested him, with Christian bragging about the murders. However, the most shocking part was what happened in court, leaving the judge and jury in disbelief. He faced charges of 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Not only did he exhibit no remorse for his actions, but he also threatened to kill one of the victim's relatives in court. During the trial, a relative of the victims delivered an impact statement. This is how Christian reacted to it.
Tennessee too. We don't want you here. All your race-baiting bullshit. You ain't gonna be mayor either, bitch. You ain't gonna be mayor either, bitch. You fucking hoes. You fucking hoes. You fucking up my whole city. George Floyd. George Floyd. I should have killed you, bitch. I should have killed your bitch ass. Everybody knows you're alive. Everybody knows you're alive, huh?
Christian was ultimately sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. Throughout the trial, his criminal history was revealed, showing that he had assaulted a woman and used racial slurs on another train just a day before the murders. Describing himself as a white nationalist and far-right extremist, Christian's additional 25 years were tacked onto his life sentences for these other offenses. Yet even with his level of disrespect, it was still not as extreme as Randall Moore's behavior. We now turn to the Polk County courtroom, where Randall Moore is on trial for the murder of his ex-wife, Therese Ann Marie Lynch. In November 2011, Moore kidnapped, sexually assaulted and murdered Lynch. The ordeal began when Lynch left Moore and obtained a protective order against him. Unable to let go, Moore kidnapped Lynch and created a hostage situation.
And it was like something you see in a movie, and it was just kind of surreal, and it was.
This is Officer Todd Rowland, who was shot by Moore while responding to the distress calls from the apartment. This occurred shortly after Moore fired at Officer Rowland. Thankfully, he survived the shooting.
Tell you something?
Well, you can tell me whatever you want.
I didn't want to do any of this.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, all I wanted was my son. I just wanted to see my 7-month-old baby. That's all I cared about.
You just wanted to see your son?
Yep.
He said that he was upset because she wouldn't allow him to see his kids.
Did he mention anything at all about this being an accident?
No.
During a 911 call, Moore detailed his reasons for murdering his wife. Eventually, the police managed to force entry into the house and take him into custody. Moore acknowledged his guilt when Judge Joel Novak confirmed the verdict on all counts. The judge permitted the victim's family to deliver their impact statements. What follows is one of the most disrespectful court scenes ever witnessed. As Lynch's mother read a heart-wrenching statement from the stand, Moore interjected with his own comments. Listen as Moore disrupts Lynch's mother's emotional testimony.
Did to my daughter, Therese Ann Marie Lynch, was evil, hateful, and despicable. You are now dead and rotting and repulsive to me.
She hated you.
Thank you, Judge.
She hated you.
Thank you.
You're a loser. I have not 1 ounce of remorse for Therese Ann's death.
But Moore had more to say. When given the chance to speak, he displayed no remorse for his actions and bluntly told the victims' families. Moore attempted to justify his crimes, offering only a token apology to Officer Todd. Judge Novak, however, had the final say. He condemned Moore's behavior with outrage and disbelief, expressing his shock at the depth of Moore's callousness.
You give a new meaning to the word evil. I've never, ever seen anybody like you.
In the end, Moore received 3 life sentences for the murder of Lynch, along with an additional 25 years for shooting Officer Rowland. That's a lengthy prison term, but is it as severe as a life sentence without the possibility of parole? That was the fate of Camilla Gamet. This is Camilla Gamet.
Basically, at trial, the way I was portrayed, mostly everything was lies. There was a little bit of truth, but mostly I was convicted off of lies.
The 31-year-old is on trial for the murder of her 38-year-old boyfriend, Marcel Hill. The couple lived together in Michigan, and in May 2018, Gamet attacked Hill in a fit of rage. She vandalized their apartment and used various items as weapons. When police arrived in response to neighbors' calls, they found Hill dead and Gamet covered in his blood. Prosecutors detailed that Gamet had repeatedly stabbed her boyfriend with the knife. However, Gamet's defense in court was just as shocking. She claimed that she mistook Hill for an intruder and stabbed him in self-defense. This explanation fell apart under scrutiny, as she should have recognized Hill. Despite presenting her story, evidence showed that Gamet had inflicted 12 stab wounds and repeatedly struck Hill with the frying pan. She continued to insist it was self-defense and that she was being falsely accused. Judge John McBain was unimpressed by Gamet's claims. Diana Banks, a family member of Hill, was brought in to give a victim impact statement. What Gamet did while Hill's own aunt addressed the court was truly disturbing. As the aunt read the statement, Gamet displayed no remorse, rolling her eyes and even smiling. After the aunt finished, Gamet's reaction was equally unsettling. This time, Judge McBain took a firmer stance and warned Gamet that he would use duct tape if she continued to interrupt. Nonetheless, Gamet did not heed the warning. Although the court officers were unable to locate duct tape, Aunt Diana managed to finish her statement. By this point, Gamet's behavior had already provoked the prosecutor's anger. Before sentencing Gamet, Judge McBain made it clear how he felt about her actions and the gravity of her crime.
You were relentless. You stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed until he was dead. I hope you die in prison as well. You know, and if this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair.
The court took into account Gamet's history of domestic abuse and sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the cases of disrespect and disregard for justice don't stop here. Next, we turn to Keith Allen Ferguson, who received a similar sentence. This is 40-year-old Keith Allen Ferguson. According to police, Ferguson murdered his wife, Tiffany Ferguson, and her father, James Weber, in November 2014. From Kalkaska County, Michigan, Ferguson faced 12 felony charges, including first- and second-degree murder and kidnapping. Tiffany Ferguson, who was 42, had decided to end their 17-year marriage. During a heated argument about the divorce, Keith assaulted Tiffany and shot her in front of their 4 children. Unfazed, Keith then drove the children to Tiffany's parents' house, where he fatally shot Tiffany's father. After this, he fled to a nearby home, took the 59-year-old female homeowner hostage, and barricaded himself inside. The standoff lasted 7 hours before Keith eventually surrendered and released her. In court, Keith displayed no remorse for his actions. Throughout his trial, Ferguson seemed indifferent to the proceedings, often showing his frustration by cursing at the judge, court officials, and everyone present. Before the judge announced his verdict, Tiffany's best friend, Carla Seating, presented the victim's impact statement. Carla described how Tiffany had been living in constant fear of Keith and had long recognized him as a significant threat.
All right, I need to have you raise your right hand for me.
I'm leaving this
Okay,
part.
all right.
Just pull me back from my
Okay, stop.
Keith expressed that he no longer wished to see or have any contact with his children, which led Judge George Mertz to question his mental state. As part of a plea agreement, Keith admitted guilt to the murders of his wife and father-in-law, resulting in the dismissal of the remaining 10 charges. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Just when you think things couldn't get any more horrific, we come to one of the most egregious cases of all. Ronnie O'Neill III.
I just saw my dad holding a shotgun and my mom screaming at him.
This is 29-year-old Ronnie O'Neill III, who is currently on trial for the brutal murders of his 9-year-old daughter, Ron Nevea O'Neill, and his 33-year-old girlfriend, Kenyatta Barron, in Riverview, Florida. On March 18, 2018, Ronnie shot Barron and then used an axe to strike his daughter multiple times, resulting in her death. He also severely injured his 8-year-old son, Ronnie O'Neill IV, by stabbing him. That night, Barron called 911 in a panic before the call abruptly ended. Less than 10 minutes later, Ronnie called 911 himself, claiming he was being attacked by white demons and accused Barron of trying to kill him, providing his home address in the call. As if this wasn't horrific enough, Ronnie then set the house on fire with gasoline, believing everyone inside was dead. Fortunately, his son managed to escape with severe burns and stab wounds. Detective Mike Blair attended to him and ensured he was hospitalized, where he survived. Ronnie fled the scene but was eventually apprehended by the police. Ronnie's trial began in 2021 and he chose to represent himself, having been deemed mentally competent to do so. During the trial, Ronnie cross-examined his son, who had recovered from his injuries and was testifying for the prosecution. Ronnie, however, claimed his son was lying and insisted that the prosecution's evidence was falsified.
I just saw my dad holding a shotgun and my mom screaming at him.
And your father had a shotgun. What happened next? What did he do?
My mom ran to my sister's room, and then my dad said, "Come here and come kill the B-word."
Did you hear any shots from the shotgun before that?
Yes.
How many times?
At first, Ronnie argued that he acted in self-defense and submitted motions to that effect, but the judge dismissed them. Ronnie was convicted of 7 charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, and 1 count of attempted first-degree murder. Even after his conviction, Ronnie did not show remorse for his actions. Before sentencing, Judge Michelle Sisko, who has nearly 20 years of experience in the judiciary, made the following statement.
Did I hurt you that night of this incident?
Yes.
I did. And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
Ronnie received 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. If you think these cases are shocking, wait until you see the next one.